Steibel on the show. He wants to talk about the
return of Steibel?
Yeah, can you believe that?
There.
Brian, how you doing?
On South Beach.
Yo, guys, I never go down to South Beach. Down there.
Oh, okay.
I really do. I mean, you can't get parking, and even if you could get parking, all you're going to do is hang out either on the beach or on, I guess, Collins, and hang out with all those people that like those Art Deco hotels, which I do. I've been in a couple of them, actually, so I got no problem with that. But the discos down there don't impress me in the least. I've grown beyond that in my old age.
All right, well, what about the presidential race? Where are you at?
By the way, I can shed a little light, some insight, in fact, on the earlier question as to how liberal Santa Monica is. I used to live there, and I lived with an elected official from Santa Monica, and she wasn't quite to the left of Che Guevara, but she was. Let's say that it wasn't comfortable, me being a Reaganite and her being way to the left of anybody you want to choose.
I could see you probably had a line drawn down the middle of the house, right? Can't cross over type thing.
Well, but I've never been one who evaluates people on their politics. You're way more conservative than me. You well know that I'm a centrist, not a conservative.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a Reaganite, but I am a centrist.
Yeah.
But I have total respect for you. And by the way, you are one of two people I've ever successfully cured of the knowing disease, and you should be proud of that.
Who's the other one? Do you know?
There's a woman I ran into from St. Louis who did it way, way, way more than you, and I just couldn't stand it. So I confronted her with it, and she thanked me for it, just like you did.
Okay, well, thank you very much again. And presidential politics. Yeah,
okay. Well, this is a question I wanted to address to three, not one, conservatives, because, and this is not a setup. I don't have an opinion on this. I've wondered about it for a good while, but I want your opinion as a rock-solid conservative as to how many is too many presidential candidates.
Yeah.
Now, the debates, we already know, are only going to have the top 10, according to the polls.
Yeah.
So some people are going to be left out already, but there may be upwards of 25 candidates by the time all is said and done. At what point, what is that X number that you think is detrimental, not to the party, but detrimental to the party's chances of being victorious in November 2016?
Well, you must have been looking over my shoulder tonight, because I actually have that on the outline.
No fooling.
Yeah.
Great minds think alike, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to have it in the second half of this hour, but I'll go ahead and approach it, the subject matter right now for a little bit. Basically, I think this is, as you know, Brian, we talk about politics being like professional wrestling here.
Sure.
And so a lot of it's just for show. I think this is just pure speculation, but I think Reince Priebus is kind of fighting the last two elections. In other words, in the last two elections, not so much with McCain, but more so with Romney, it was pretty well known pretty early on that was the guy to go after if you were the Democrats. And if you have the mindset that they're going to do that again, in other words, let's just say we're going to recognize only 3 or 4 candidates, and of those, Scott Walker's the front runner, but we know really Jeb Bush is the one who's going to get the nomination.
I hope not.
Well, I'm just saying, let's just say under those circumstances, that would be the way it would have been done in the past. Well, then the Democrats can aim their guns at Jeb Bush and start firing away. But as you have it now, you don't know who to shoot at. And so the longer they keep more people in it, I think this is the strategy of the Republican Party, Reince Priebus perhaps in particular. The more of the people you keep in, the longer, the harder it will be for the Democrats to zero in their attacks. I think that at least is part of what's going on here. Now, to answer your broader question, I don't know that that's a good strategy, because in the end, it may water it down so much that it loses its effect. I would like to see about 8 or 10. And I think that after a fairly short period of time, we will be down to 8 or 10, because the money will be beginning to run out for the rest, and they just won't be able to continue on the trail. They will become
for sure. After Iowa, you're going to see it probably drop by 50%, that number, whatever that number is.
Exactly. And I think until then, I think the Republican Party is just fine with having the more the merrier, and for the very reason which I said.
Well, it's quite a spectacle. It's going to be an amazing election. I hope I live to see it. I'm since I've talked to you, I've turned 60, and I just hope I make 61. And in the meantime, I want to thank you for letting me be part of the show tonight. Good luck to you.
Thank you very, very much, Brian. We appreciate you. We think about you, and we wish you well. And,
Great to hear that. Thank you.
All right. Call back again. Okay. As I said, I was going to get to that later, but that I do believe he's onto something here, and I believe that the Republicans are doing this on purpose. But the danger is they're fighting last cycle's election when they're doing that. Now it may end up working for them, but in essence, I believe that they're basically hiding their cards from all of us, and they're sort of playing all of us here. Okay, is what when you get into this sort of thing. So I want to go back though and go back to my outline because it'll bring us back to that.
Okay.
But before I do, you wanted to say something.
Well, has Jeb Bush announced yet?
No, but we'll get to that.
There's a reason.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that. Okay, that's why I say I want to sort of lead back up into that. But Brian was right on to something there. Presidential politics, the Democrats. This past week, within a week or 10 days, Bernie Sanders has joined the race. The honest-to-God socialist, even though he calls himself an independent, is in the race. And now Martin O'Malley has entered the race officially, and he would be considered by some, I suppose, the serious opponent to Hillary Clinton. But in my opinion, they are both just enhancement talent. Bernie Sanders, matter of fact, even more so than Martin O'Malley, because Bernie Sanders is so far to the left that he would make, even President Obama look middle of the road. I mean, this guy he's all out socialist. He wants to take us back to the tax rate, the top tax rate that we had when John F. Kennedy was first elected.
90%, right?
Yeah, and then of course John F. Kennedy lowered that because he knew that people don't pay it at that rate. Why have a top rate of 90% when no one is going to pay it? And then people say, well, what do you mean no one's going to pay it? Anybody earning that kind of money is going to pay it? No.
They'll drop their salaries.
Anybody earning that kind of money is going to hire somebody to figure out a way for them not to pay it.
Yeah, but if they can halve their salary and keep more than what they did if they had the current salary, they'd do that too.
You're simply talking about one of the techniques that people would pay to avoid paying the tax.
Right.
All right, and there are a myriad of them. When the tax rate was that high, Kirk Douglas, the guy with the chin?
Yeah.
The guy with the chin? Who's still around, by the way. He's still kicking, yeah, Kirk Douglas. He wrote an autobiography, I think it was about 20 years ago when he was like 70. And in his book, he talked about how Hollywood and the actors dealt with that 90% tax rate. Okay, for back then, I think that 90% rate kicked in at about $250,000. Okay, and which back then was big money, a lot bigger than it is today. Although to me, that is big money. But anyway, what they would do is they would make a movie or two, depending on what they were getting from the studios. They would make a movie or two in the United States until they got up to that $200,000 to $250,000, and then they would make the rest of the movies for that year somewhere else, outside the United States, so that they didn't have to pay the 90% rate. So it is just fool's errand. But to get back to the point, he will make Hillary Clinton look moderate. That's what his job is. Okay, yes. His job is to make Hillary Clinton look moderate, and Martin O'Malley's job is to make her look like she's really a serious candidate who has some serious ideas, which he is the farthest thing from. And he'll appear to put a little pressure on her, but at the end of the day, it is only to enhance her image. And and I believe this is an excellent strategy, and they were talking about this on Fox this morning, and I think it was Chris Wallace asked the table discussion, how long can Hillary continue to go without answering any questions? And I said this on the show this past week. I can't remember what day it was, but I said, get used to this. What she's doing now, she's going to continue right on through the whole time. She doesn't have to talk to the reporters. All right? Except maybe the local media. And Britt Hume said, well, at least for the foreseeable future, or as long as, in perpetuity. I mean, why does she need to talk to the reporters? Why does she need to answer any questions? Right? She has got 45 to 46, maybe 47% of solid support right now today, and it's not going to go away. Okay?
Right.
And I don't care what comes down the pike. Okay? Short of her committing first-degree murder, it's not going to matter.
Even that won't matter to the Democrats.
To some, it may not.
To 47% of the Democrat Party, it's not going to make a difference.
Right, and I don't want to get into the Vince Foster thing, okay? But the point is, and I've said this repeatedly on the show, Democrats in general, and the Clintons in particular, and Obama too, they understand, they may not verbalize it like I do, like we do around here, but they understand the professional wrestling nature of politics. And her strategy to cast herself as a champion is by no mistake. What they are doing is they are working the crowd. They are working the crowd in the sense that they know of this nation's population, they can get 45 to 47% of the voters to see her as the champion. And once they fix her in their mind as the champion, nothing can be said that will essentially change that. And so it is, on their part, a very smart strategy. Not to answer any questions, because then she would have to, it would be sort of chipping away at that champion thing. She sets herself up as the champion and then allows people to attack her, because that only instills more loyalty in those 45 to 47%. That's what they're working hard to do. And with that, they may be able to win the election. In their mind, all they need now is 3 or 4% of that middle road. And then they got it in the bag. And when you look at the states and the way the Electoral College is set up, with California, New York, already in the Democratic, column, it's an uphill battle every year for the Republicans. And if they go into this blindly, fighting last cycle's election, not understanding what is going on here, they are sure to lose. Now, having said that, there are signs that they do kind of understand, at least Carly Fiorina, because she is following around Hillary Clinton, shadowing her, and, posing questions. That will be effective to an extent. How long she can stay in and continue to do that, I don't know. But the Clinton strategy is, as I said earlier, to float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. And I steal that from Drew Bundini Brown and Muhammad Ali. And I believe it was actually Drew Bundini Brown who came up with that phrase, but Muhammad Ali made a poem, and that was one of the lines in the poem. And so she's floating like a butterfly, just flittering around, but she's going to sting like a bee. And that also carries the connotation as the champion, Muhammad Ali, the champion. You couldn't lay a glove on him. You see, he floated around, you couldn't hit him, but when he hit you, he stung you. And I believe that is, in essence, the strategy that the Clintons have employed. Thank you, Bill Clinton. And it's the best strategy for them to employ, because, as I said the other day, they are loaded with baggage. And when you're loaded with that kind of baggage, you can either get out of the race, you can try to talk your way out of it, or you can neutralize it by making it inconsequential to the vast majority of people out there, or at least a vast number of people.
Democrats are good at that.
They are indeed good at it. And in politics, it's like professional wrestling. If the person is your champion, they got to go to extraordinary lengths to break that bond. Okay? Yeah. And she understands this. And the Republicans need to understand it. And they need to make that part of their strategy. But I fear what's going on here with the Republicans is that the establishment is being manipulative. And part of the manipulation is this big, huge crowd. Make no mistake, a lot of these people are getting in because they are being urged to get in. Okay? John Kasich is going to be the latest one. Oh, another successful governor. I'm sorry, he just doesn't look the part. And you may say, oh, what do you mean? You're going to elect a president on what he looks like? Yeah, that's part of what it is.
Yeah, that's what TV does for you.
It sure enough is. When we come back, we'll have our Who Said That. Well, no, wait, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We'll talk a little bit more about this. But in the second half of this hour, we will have our Who Said That contest, and we'll sort of twist into talking a little bit more about the Republican side.
I want to read something when we come back.
Okay.
But, Michelle Obama was addressing kids, and she said to them, it doesn't matter who gets put up, it doesn't matter what they stand for, you always need to vote Democrat.
Oh, that's brilliant. All right.